for your the first pro-constructive, I think that you guys have like a variety of good arguments that are really flexible that you could use later on in the debate. The problem is I don't think that you really use them to their full extent, which is something I'll talk about later. And also something really sad is that you guys don't really have any impacts, like really. You guys didn't really read like a freedom impact. You didn't read an impact to the Fourth Amendment. You didn't read why surveillance being unreliable is bad. And then, I mean, like the drones thing, it kind of had an impact, I guess, that it killed innocent civilians. But you didn't really stress that fact later on. And you sort of like turned it into a terrorism argument, how it creates terrorism. But I think that that made it easier for them to answer it because they already had answers to drones. So by combining like two arguments into one, by making, you could have made it harder for them by making them like answer two arguments, but you combined them into one, which made it easier for them later on. In the first con constructive, you should really read more cards. Like two really isn't enough. And I think the main issue is like your cards are just too long. You shouldn't highlight as much words because I think that you could go without saying some of the things that you're already saying, because after you've already stated the warrant, you can just move on. But then you don't, because I remember in one of your lines it said something like, oh, like this person was really admired. I don't really need to know that and stuff, so you should like de-highlight parts of that. And also you should try to read impacts other than terrorism, because like that's basically what your case is focused on. And then from what I've seen so far, everyone kind of knows how to answer terrorism. And then like something else that other teams read is like surveillance is effective to stop crime, right? Yeah. And then that might be a bit harder to answer because it like affects people at a more individual and personal level, instead of terrorism like this broad statement that could apply to anything. But by narrowing down the topic to things like petty crimes that surveillance could also prevent, like you're also solving that. Oh yeah, and also like a crossfire question that I think that you guys need to ask is whether or not all forms of surveillance is bad. Because if you actually read the topic, it's actually really extreme. It says the United States federal government should substantially curtail its domestic surveillance, right? And then by domestic surveillance, it's not necessarily just talking about like NSA metadata collection. It's not just talking about drones, right? It might also be talking about like CCTVs inside buildings to help people like catch crimes that happen. Or like it could also mean like curtailing really dumb stuff like, you know those cameras at like the traffic lights, right? That whenever people are speeding, it catches you. That also counts as surveillance. Okay? And then just because our case is centered on the NSA doesn't mean that we should like curtail every single form of surveillance, because that's a bit like extreme. That doesn't really make any sense.